morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time it is, wherever you are listening to this podcast. My name is Amani Maranga and welcome to Living Truthfully. Episode, believe it or not, 30, episode 30, and we're just knocking on the door of 70,000 downloads. Wow! Thank you so much for you guys, Bana. Why? The love, the feedback, everything you're doing to just validate the work that we're doing. You got us the big award. You voted for us. So yes, I'm having people refer to me now as an award-winning podcaster. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And we are doing this series. The series is Men and Their Hustle. And today in studio, I have a man, a real hustler, the guy who knows how to make business happen. This man is a friend of mine. This man has quite a story. This man is Sumeet Walia. Karibu bwana Sumeet.
Thank you, Amani. Thank you. Now that you've got an award, you're glowing.
Please address me appropriately.
Okay, Mr. Award winner.
Yes, award-winning podcast.
Do you get a title after that? You know, like MBA or BA or CA?
Yeah, I get a title.
You do, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called BAKE.
Okay.
Bake.
Yeah.
Then now guys thought it was about cake.
Oh, really? Okay.
And guys thought it was about cake because I'm fat. You know, like it's terrible, Bana.
No, you're full of wisdom. You tell me it's not food. You're so full of wisdom. Your body is grown bigger.
The wisdom is showing around my waist, man. Thank you so much for coming, Sumeet. You're a good man, and it's good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's good to reconnect with you after a while. Yeah?
Yes, it's been a while.
It's been a while, and it's been. I think that while was we needed space. We needed space from each other.
Well. Did we? I don't know. I needed space from everyone, from life.
Everyone.
I needed space from life, man.
I needed space from life, man, as well. I met Sumeet in church. I met you in about 2007 or 2008, was it?
Probably, yeah.
And I was surprised. I'm going to reveal some things.
Reveal, man.
You were the only Indian in church. You were.
I think there were other. There was probably one or two more, but I think. I was the only one who was consistently there, so probably you just noticed me.
It was easy to notice you because you're black, eh?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think I was the most good-looking guy there, so you know what I mean. Yeah.
You are the most good-looking Indian I know. And so, I mean, for me, that was an interesting thing, and let me start from there because that was my authentic experience of you. Okay. Just being able to see this guy who, you know, everything about him does not match just the people I regularly see in church. Yet true. You are like the one of the most spiritual people I know. And it was amazing to just see your passion for God and your passion for the church at the time. And maybe I want to start there and say, like, what got you into the church? Was it how you grow up? Did you grow up with Christianity in front of you? How did that happen?
No, not really. So I came to that time was Nairobi Chapel in 2005. I was 6 there. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just looking for God in that. You know, I wasn't really a religious person at that time. So I was just looking for God. I was this place in life where my life was really not working. I was just one of those guys who was partying, drinking, all these kinds of things. And I think I just got to this place where I was fed up. I was like, man, this can't be life. There were other things going on with my family as well. My father had passed away. So it was just a difficult time. And I just felt, you know, my future, I just needed some help. I needed something supernatural, something God really. So I started going to a temple. I grew up a Hindu. I came from a Hindu family really. So I started going to a temple, seeking, you know, something godly. During that period, a friend of mine invited me to a church, to Nairobi Chapel. So I went there. It was different from going to a temple. It was loud music, singing, worship, etc. You know, in a Hindu temple, you just go, everything's quiet, you bow down.
I don't know. I have no idea.
You haven't, eh? So basically, it's a huge room. You know, they have different gods, statues. So you go, you bow down, different gods for different kind of
for different
purposes.
things. For
let's
different
call
purposes,
it.
Yeah.
So you go there if you're having financial issues. You go pray. If you're having whatever. So that's what you do. But when I came to church, I just found something more personal.
Yeah.
It kind of touched me, the music, etc. I remember the pastor then was preaching about legacy, and I was like, forget, when I die, I can't think of my life next month.
Yeah.
So it just kind of made sense. From then, somebody gave me a Bible, I started reading it, and I just came to a conclusion that really Jesus Christ makes sense to me, as opposed to all these other things that I had kind of tried. So that's how I kind of got introduced into church. I got born again, and
And then you came to Mavuno so you must have moved with Mavuno when.
So when the Nairobi Chapel multiplied into I think 5 or 6 churches, I first came to Westlands, Parklands actually. It was called the Covenant Church.
Yes, the Kilelesha Covenant.
Yes, yeah. So and then I met up with. I'd done a Mizizi class. There's something. There's a discipleship program called Mizizi.
Yeah.
So I did the first one with Pastor M. So I got to know him. It was very interesting. I used to smoke like 2 packets of cigarettes a day.
Oh, wow.
So it was very hard. Sitting in a service for 2 hours. I couldn't sit, so I had to So one of the things that happened to me was, it was very interesting. Somebody prayed for me, and I never smoked since.
Wow.
And so I think God kind of just hit me hard, and He just got my attention, during that period I met with Pastor Muridi, and he wanted me to accompany a team that was going to Uganda to just check out the place. So that's how I went with them, and then I just moved to Mavuno.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's an interesting story to just create context of who you are.
Yeah.
So you're a businessman. I met you as a businessman.
That's correct.
I met you as a businessman. You were running a company called Ultra.
That's right.
And Ultra was probably, in my view, one of the biggest merchandising. Was it merchandising? It's clothing.
Yes.
You did t-shirts, you did caps,
correct.
You did branded merchandise.
That's right.
Did you do Safaricom wallets? Did you do the wallets as well?
Yes, we were one of the suppliers who used to make those wallets. That's right.
That's for the SIM cards.
Yes.
So that's who I met, and you had a pretty sizable operation, and I used to find you strange because, Sumeet, I think you were driving. Were you driving a Probox?
I was.
You're driving this big organization that's doing huge contracts.
Yes.
Driving a Probox, and I'm like, these Indians.
Yes. Yes.
And it doesn't help even when we turn
What's wrong with the Probox,
There's
man?
nothing wrong. Well, there's everything wrong with the Probox. God, please don't give me a Probox. I know I want a car, but God, please, anything but a Probox.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I found that you had.
It had a lot of space at the back, so we could carry a lot of goods.
So that was why.
That was it.
That was it.
And it was a 1300 cc.
Yeah.
So the fuel gauge would you'd have to drive a lot to get that gauge down.
Oh wow.
So,
I thought you were humble. That's what I thought.
Okay.
Do you think you are humble?
Humble. I don't know. Well, I guess if somebody says they're humble, how do you say you're humble with humility?
Moses said he was humble.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know if I was humble. I think my mind was just on running the business and keeping costs low and stuff like that. So I don't think I needed to drive a big car just to look like a businessman or something. So I guess those things didn't really make much difference to me.
Tell me about the business at that time. What? I mean, this is I'm talking maybe 20 at the time when I'm realizing the scope of your business.
Yeah,
it's probably 2010. 2009, 2010, thereabouts, 2011. I think we did a bit of work together.
Yes.
How was your business at that time?
So basically, when I started off, I just started off from my parents' house.
Okay.
And then gradually we got into manufacturing. I wasn't really manufacturing early days. We got into manufacturing.
So manufacturing, you meant you were making the clothes yourself?
Yeah, so we would buy the raw materials.
Okay.
If it's t-shirts, we'd buy the fabrics.
Yes.
Then we'd stitch them.
Okay.
We'd print them. We embroidered them. Like in terms of the wallets, we'd buy those materials and just stitch the whole wallet.
Okay.
So basically from the raw material.
Create it from scratch?
Yes.
So it was your own design?
It would be our design or it would be the customer's design.
Okay.
But we were manufacturing.
All right.
So in terms of now just the organization, textiles is labor intensive, so we had a lot of factory staff, etc.
What was the size of your staff at best?
About 250.
You were employing 250 people.
Yeah, I mean, out of 250, probably about 200, 220 were guys who were working in the factory.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the time then we were, I mean, in fact, that's the time we were doing those wallets. And, so we had sizable orders, and, these guys needed them very quickly. So, yeah, you
had good turnaround time. You had people working in the factory. You had a system. You were in industrial area at the time.
That's right.
You
Yes.
you had a good system. Would you say you had a successful business?
Would I say we had a successful? To a certain extent, we did do well. I think to a certain place we did well, but we kind of, I think we kind of lost track at some point in terms of just managing the business and those kinds of things. So I think we succeeded. I wouldn't say we didn't succeed. It's just that. Well, I mean, if we get into the conversation of what happened in the future, I made mistakes. So
I want to try and paint the picture of what your business looked like at best. When you were at some success, what did it look like?
At best, we were one of the main suppliers to most corporate organizations in terms of clothing merchandise.
Yes.
I mean, if the big guys would consider buying, T-shirts, polos, etc., we'd be in their top 3 list.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I think if people looked inside their wardrobes, they would find an Ultra T-shirt in their wardrobes. It's a very high chance that
in those days, yeah, definitely.
Maybe they're still. Maybe now the T-shirt is a duster, but
yes.
But at some point, people had an Ultra T-shirt, given by some corporate somewhere.
True. That's true. Yes.
That you made.
Yes. In terms of these wallets, we were initially there were 3 of us, but eventually we were the main guys. We were the main supplier of wallets.
So if you bought a Safaricom SIM card, and it came in a wallet,
yes,
that wallet was an Ultra wallet.
90% it would have been made by us.
Wow.
Yeah. So
did you have money?
Did I have money?
Yes.
What do you mean? Did I have money?
Did
I have money in my pocket? Did I have money?
Were you rich? Did you feel rich?
Did I feel rich?
I don't know if Indians feel rich. Do Indians feel rich? This is now. I'm stereotyping.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to stereotype, but I feel like Indians and Kikuyus are the same. We don't show money. So you could have money, you could have real money, but you don't flash it. It's not. We don't stereotypically, buy the big cars. The Kikuyu will still buy a pickup.
Yeah.
And he could afford a Jaguar, but he'll buy a pickup.
I think what I'd say is this, any money and all money that the business made, I put it all back in. So I barely, and that was really my thinking, let's just grow this business.
Yeah.
So rich in the sense that did I spend money on, big cars or whatever? I didn't.
You didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was,
but the business was
cash flow.
The business was generating income, and we plowed it all back in. I mean, when we started, I had 0 machines. So when you have like 200 machine operators, that's about 200. Well, okay, we're working a day and night shift, so we had about 120 stitching machines. We had 5 or 6 printing machines. So yeah, it was
It's a size.
It was a sizable business.
What would have been the value of the business at the time?
I don't know, maybe 60, 70 million. Possibly.
Wow. From nothing to possibly.
So we did succeed.
Yes.
I think we did succeed to a certain extent.
Yes.
True. Yeah.
So what happened, man? So Sumeet, you're doing well.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I hear is there's some struggles, and I'm struggling with business at the time.
Right.
So identify, but I think at the time I'm as optimistic about your business as I am about mine.
True.
And I'm thinking that we'll survive the storm.
Yeah.
And then you shut down effectively.
That's true.
What happened?
Well, okay, so let's start from the end. So in 2016, in July, just about 3 years ago, I just decided that I couldn't run this factory anymore. At that point, we had like 20, 25 employees.
From 250 to 25 employees.
Yeah. I just felt I couldn't, it had come to a place where it was just a nightmare. I mean, We couldn't pay our staff members on time. So there was always, these are guys who are like, tailors, etc. So if you don't pay them, they really struggle.
Yeah.
We couldn't pay our creditors, banks, etc. So there was just a lot of pressure.
Were you in debt?
Well, a lot of debt. Don't ask me how much, but a lot. I think I'll probably be paying that debt for many years to come. So,
wow.
But basically what had happened was this: we had gotten one large order, 2016.
Yeah.
And I had thought that we'd use that order to just get this business back on track, but unfortunately, I think so that particular order, I think I hired people, tried to get all these machines repaired and just get this, just fix the things and try to get it moving. But then unfortunately, this order got cancelled, or rejected rather. So we produced all this stuff, which was of poor quality. So I think for me, that was like the final nail in the coffin. I said, I'll just die. So either I choose to die or I continue struggling to run this thing. So I just said, it's all right. Let's just stop and then see what to do. So that's kind of...
that's the end. That's
in terms of the factory. Yeah. That was the end. That's true. That was the end. Yes.
You closed those doors.
Well, yeah. What I said was, okay, let me just pay off these workers.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had some equipment and machinery at that time. So the first thing was to stop producing, which meant just pay off staff, whatever we could. And then, just now begin to deal with the creditors, the banks, etc.
So what did you do with your assets?
Hey, now a lot of them got auctioned because we couldn't pay off, so got into a legal process. So there are some staff members who sued us, if you hadn't paid them, you hadn't paid them. So, so all that happened. Finally, a landlord who we had rent arrears with came and locked the place. So that was like, that was the last time I entered that factory. So that was like the end of,
Ultra as we know it.
Yes.
As we knew it at the time.
That's true. Yeah. So it was a painful process and, not so nice.
I can only
not just
imagine.
for me, but for people.
For everyone.
Yeah.
But how did you get there? How do you move from 250 employees to a profitable business, 60, 70 million worth of a business, both in assets and probably revenue, to...
Look, so... I think the first thing is this. I got into competition mode, which basically there are many mistakes I made, but one of the ones that I made was trying to compete with people who had a lot more capacity financially, etc., than us. So we take on some orders just for the sake of taking on orders, just to keep competition out, which really we shouldn't have done.
You couldn't service.
So those kinds of things now meant we were losing money. And we didn't have, enough buffer to sustain it. We were competing with bigger guys.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I made some mistakes. That was one. And then I think, again, my own capacity to manage a business of that size, I really don't think I had it, So just getting large orders was a good thing.
Yeah.
But then, when you're running a factory, you need to manage it properly. Because a factory is really about managing costs and things like that.
Yes.
And I just wasn't on top of things. So so essentially, we were not making a profit. At some point, it came to a place where that factory was so inefficient, and there was theft, there was loss, there was rejection. And now what happens is you've got this huge thing, you're trying to get it moving, but really you're just digging a bigger hole.
Yes.
Because now, because we had done well, we had good customers, the banks were willing to lend to us.
Yes.
So when we went to them and said, okay, we have this problem, they lent us more money. We said, okay, maybe it's the equipment. So we kind of bought new equipment, borrowed more money. But really, I think it was just me not being able to manage a business of that size. I also hired, I think just in terms of the admin staff, just a lot of, my thinking was, okay, let me get qualified people who I pay a lot of money to run this thing, which also didn't work. So it was just a mess. Yeah, I don't know. That's how it kind of happened.
What
over a period of time.
Yeah, like
several years.
How many years? How many years
Probably
do you
6,
think
7
you
years.
are running down the business?
Maybe 4, 5, 6 years, possibly.
For 5, 6 years. So the business is running.
Yes.
You're working.
Yes.
You're working hard.
Yes.
But you're essentially running your business to the ground.
What you're really trying to do is firefight. You know, you get you take an order, you don't produce it properly, so maybe it's delayed. The customer is not happy. In turn, they probably don't pay you properly, which in turn creates another problem where now your cash flow is affected. Or you take on an order to keep competition out. Now, you're not making money out of it. Then you look to hire up someone to try and fix this thing who really is clueless as well, but costs a lot of money. So what I'm saying is, I think I was just in this space where, you're like in a forest, man. You're like in a jungle and you don't know what the hell is going on. Although you're just trying to find your way. In all honesty, I tried everything I could, but I just couldn't do it. Yeah.
What was happening in your personal life at the time?
Okay, well, so I was still a Christian.
Yes.
So, and it was a difficult process because I was a believer, go to church, etc. But it was a difficult time because you're seeing your life unravel, basically, and you're wondering where God is. So I think on that side, it was a hard process for me in terms of my personal life. Now, basically, when brokenness hits you, you need to be realistic. So when was it? In 2014 or something, I moved in with my mother because I couldn't really even afford to pay rent and stuff.
How old were you at the time?
2014, I was 40 years.
So at 40, you moved in back with your mother. Yes. How did that feel?
Well, initially it was a relief, because I was like, at least I can breathe here.
Yeah.
But of course, I felt like a failure. I wouldn't. At that point, I was a failure. You've borrowed all this money which you cannot pay. At that point, you've got other people into trouble. I'd gone into this relationship as well in 2012, 13, something like that. And now we had a kid. We had a child. My daughter was born then. So, as a man, you're like... so I'd gone into this relationship. We weren't married. And basically, it was my responsibility to, support her, etc. And it was really hard for me at that time. I was going through a financial,
crisis,
a difficult time. Yeah. And it really hits you hard because you kind of, I think you just feel like a failure. You feel like a failure in terms of just being a man. You're like, hey, men are not supposed to be like this. It's a hard process. It's your self-esteem is basically blown out of the window. You begin to emotionally it's a mess, but then, well, as a man, you just have to. For me, I was like, okay, so I have this responsibility in terms of my daughter, etc. So I was like, okay, I don't have a choice. I just have to do whatever I have to do. But being failing as a man is a very, for me anyway, I don't know about other men, your concept of who a man should be, you're not that, so you're just even trying to figure out what the hell really are you, man?
Who am I?
Yeah, exactly.
What am I?
Yeah, am I just a loser? What am I? Yeah.
I want to get into that just for a second, because a lot of the times, and one of the reasons I'm doing this series is because as men, we a lot of the times define ourselves by what we do, and we define ourselves by what we have. So it's our career, it's maybe what we have in terms of our skills, but also in terms of the money that we have in our pocket. What do you feel about that now?
You see, Amani, as I process this whole episode, not just the part where I failed, but the point where I started, my father, basically, we were a middle class family, and he used to work in a textile company. I never wanted to. When I started the business, one of my main motivations was to be a businessman, because I just thought, not that I thought, I saw that those that work and those that own are different.
Yes.
They're treated differently.
Yes.
And I didn't want to be treated like an employee. I wanted to be a businessman.
Yes.
And that was my identity. In fact, I think at the back of my mind, that's really a lot of what drove me to keep this thing going, because I was like, this is who I am.
You're a businessman.
I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said as well.
Yeah.
You looked at me as a businessman.
You are a businessman.
Exactly.
You are the guy.
So, but again, as this thing collapsed and my life was sort of in shambles, let's say, God again began to speak to me and said, that's not your identity. You're my son, and that's who you are, but it's a painful process trying to disassociate yourself, because you've kind of created this image.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And when that image is really taken away, it's like, you've been stripped naked.
You're unlearning things.
So it's a process just to say, okay, it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Whether people think of me as a businessman or whatever. But it's not an easy thing. I think you're right. A lot of as men, we're looking for an identity, for sure. And that identity could be a businessman, it could be a football player or whatever. But it's really not very. It's not really founded in a strong foundation, because as a football player, you could break your leg. You're no longer a football player.
Yeah.
Then what?
Do you stop being you?
Yeah, And if the people who associated with you was because you're a football player, and obviously when you're not, they'll all disappear. So I think for me, this process of just knowing who I am in God and in Christ, just as kind of, it doesn't bother me anymore, because people, when you failed, the thing remains. So it doesn't bother me. I recognize I made mistakes. But yeah, God still loves me.
He does. I want to ask you one more question before we move on from that space. Your circle of friends, your band of brothers, so to speak, how did they handle that time for you?
Yeah, good question. It was very interesting, because I had two friends who I think to a certain degree understood. I think they tried to understand what this guy is going through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they were there to listen to, maybe actually three of them. So they kind of supported me to a certain extent. But otherwise, I think it's a lonely kind of a process.
It is. You go through it alone.
Yes. Okay, as in people, your friends can be there for you to the extent that they can, but really the depth of, let's call it pain. For me, it was painful. It was just pain. I don't know. There's no physical pain, but you just there's there's some pain inside. Nobody can really, and even like I was telling you, even your not even friends, your immediate family cannot understand. I remember, my mother, for example, to a certain extent, I think she had aspirations for me. And here was this guy who was moving by home. Yeah. Probably to a certain kind of degree, thought that this guy really is a failure, so it's a lonely thing. It's a difficult thing. Yeah.
So how do you get out of it?
Okay, so I think, for me, basically, again, I was at that desperate place.
Yes.
I was at that desperate place. And I, again, it's just like the way I first started coming to church. I went back to God and said, okay, you're God.
Yeah.
So what's the way forward? How is this supposed to pan out? I think I also kind of shared with you, I was in such a dark place where I was like, man, is it, I don't really see a future for myself.
Yes.
I mean, you're in debt. You owe people money who are asking for it. You have these responsibilities, and who people are like, hey man, you have to meet your. And I was like, I don't know how this thing is just going to pan out.
Well, when we spoke yesterday, you said you felt like you had 3 choices.
Yes. We talk about those 3 choices.
Let's talk about them.
Sure. Okay. So again, like I said, it's a very desperate place. And for me, I was like, okay, I mean, forget about what I'm going through. This has affected my family, my mother. It's affected my daughter, who I think at that time was 2-3 years old. She was a baby, really. Her mother, because I was responsible for whatever. So, I was telling God, I really don't think I can do this thing. I don't think I can get up in the morning and continue. So God just said to me, okay, let's just think this through, and he actually told me, take out a piece of paper. Let's write down what you can do.
What are your options?
What are my options? So I think I still have that register. So I drew 3 lines and I said, option 1 is to take off, find some place.
Leave the country.
Yeah.
Hop on a flight.
And disappear.
Go to Delhi.
Possibly. So that was an option. I mean, I could have done it. I think I could have, just gotten a ticket and gone, switched off my phones or whatever. The second option was, how the hell do you... I was suicidal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's an option. I could just go. In fact, I my prayer at that time was, Lord, can I just come?
Take my life.
Yeah, can I just come to you? That was and this is basically a conversation I'm having with God. So I'm writing these things down, but it's like a conversation. The third option was to continue. Get up in the morning, deal with whatever I have to. I had to look for a job. Look for a job. Look for money to pay my daughter's school fees, rent, whatever, all these things. That was the third option. And the third option, really, there was no there was nothing. I didn't know. I basically knew tomorrow morning I have to get up and call people to look for a job.
It was just a decision to continue.
Yeah, to continue.
To just wake up and try again. Try whatever.
Just take the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that was the conversation I was having with God. And basically, option 1 was basically God said, you're running away from the problems and you want to leave them on other people. And I was like, yep, that's true. And he was like, okay, so your mom and the others will have to deal with this. Is that what you want? I was like, no, I don't want them to deal with the problems I've created. The second one was, and the first one was, eventually I'd have to come back and deal with them anyway. So the second one was, okay, so let's say if I'm suicidal, all right? So what do I do? What happens then? I was like, okay, and that's the one that God really spoke. He just asked me a simple question. What will happen to your daughter? And I was like, her life will never be the same. She will just not experience the life that she would if I was there. And secondly, my mother would be shattered.
Yeah.
So God asked me, is that what you want? And I was like, no, I can't do that. So he was like, okay, so that leaves option 3 to continue. And then he directed me I was reading my Bible. I couldn't pray. I just couldn't verbally pray. So I used to write down my prayers. I just couldn't pray. Very interesting. He directed me to a verse in Isaiah, I think in 42 or something. And the verse simply says, you'll go through fire, but you won't get burnt. You'll go through the flood waters, but you won't drown because I'll be with you. And that's what I think God just said to me. You know what? Whatever the issues are, you have to deal with them. And it's going to be like fire. It's going to be like drowning. It's not going to be easy, but I'll be with you. And I was like, okay, man, let's just do this. Like I was telling you yesterday, sometimes my prayers were, Lord, take me through the next hour.
Yeah.
This particular situation. That's all I'm asking. If you can just
1 hour.
Yeah. If you can just get me through, just getting up in the morning, taking a mat to get to work, I'll be grateful. Just keep my mind sane enough to do this. Take me through the afternoon. Let me just get through the afternoon, sane. Let me just have enough energy to just go and let my daughter see me. I'm not asking that I'll be all excited, but let me just be there. Take me through that. And that's how it was for days, weeks, months. Yeah. Yeah, wow. That's how it was.
You never wanted to be an employee, and now you have a job.
Well, I had, okay.
At the time, you had to find a job.
Yes. So what happened was, again, I think a couple of weeks after we shut down this factory, I called one of my suppliers at that time. We were one of their big customers. Of course, they'd seen me go through all these problems, etc. So I'd called the guy, the owner, and he, I think again by God's grace, gave me a job. So I started that job. Again, by God's grace, again, the actual work that I needed to do was something it was a sales job. So it was something that I was good at. And the products that they wanted me, they had this stock, this excess stock line. It was a huge garment factory, probably the largest. And they had this excess stock. And so my job was to help them clear that stock.
Yeah.
So again, I thank God, I was able to do that well. I was being paid well. So in August 2016 is when I got that job. And I was being paid enough now to just, from a financial perspective, just pay my basics, the responsibilities I had with my daughter's school fees, etc. And then I began to save and, so that's how it worked. So I got a job, I was employed. And, it was not easy because, everybody knew who I was in terms of, having run this business, etc. So, but again, God just told me, this is the way it is. I told you it's not going to be easy, but you just have to take it one day at a time.
When we met a couple of weeks ago, you alluded to just being able to keep saving until you had a tidy sum.
Yes.
Tell me about that process and that discipline.
Well, look, again, the discipline that I had developed just because of having very limited money, I didn't kind of change my lifestyle. I was staying at my mom's house. I was still taking a mat. I was still not spending money on anything else. So basically, I was just saving every last cent I could. At the back of my mind, I still felt, at some point this business could get back on track. So let me just save. So I was saving. Not only was I saving, I just wasn't spending. I just didn't want to spend money. So that's what I did for over just about 2.5 years.
What was the result of that? Not in amount necessarily. It's fine if you want to share it, but in terms of what it did for you as a person, those 2 years of just diligently working, being disciplined about how you spend, being disciplined about saving, what did it do for you?
So, what happened is, after a month or two, having a job, I still had customers. The factory had shut down. So the customers would still send me emails, so I got one order. I was employed, I got an order. So I was like, okay, maybe I didn't want to really get back into business because it had just totally drained me.
I understand it. Mine is in boxes. Literal boxes.
So I was like, okay, maybe I can make a little bit of money with these one-off orders that come in here and there. Now, my reputation was in tatters, because there was debt, etc. So, people were like, this guy hasn't paid us. So basically, there was nobody who was going to give me credit. So the long and short is, at some point, I said, okay, maybe in the future, this business can come back on track. But in order for that to happen, I need to have enough capital to be able to fund these orders.
Because no one will give you an order. No one will supply your order without money.
Yes, exactly. So at that point, again, God said to me that, this business will come back. Okay. But again, it's a process. God had already told me there's no miracle, because at some point my prayer was, let's have a miracle.
Yeah, you said you were looking for.
Yeah, I was like, God, you've done many things in my life that are miraculous.
Yes.
Like the one of that prayer, and I just stopped smoking.
Yeah.
That was like supernatural.
Yes.
I mean, I struggled, man.
Yeah.
To quit that.
I understand the struggle. Better than you think I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I knew God could do these things. There are other prayers work-wise I prayed and God just came through. But this one, he just said no. Okay, he didn't say no. He just said, we are going to have to go through the consequences of the things that you have brought into your life. You have to deal with those consequences. Now, part of the consequence of just having a bad reputation is that people don't trust you, and they won't give you credit, etc. So, I mean, if I had to do any business, it had to be done on cash.
Yeah.
So, but then I realized that if I continue working, doing a good job at my workplace, and saving, I could accumulate money to be able to do larger orders, So, in fact, over the 2.5 year period, it's like that was my vision. That by the time I'm exiting this place, I've got enough working capital to be able to kind of get this business back on track. So my focus was always on that. In fact, even as I accumulated more and more money, my lifestyle didn't change. I didn't start spending more money or buying expensive things or whatever. Nothing. I mean, it was simple. I had this vision which brought focus, which brought discipline. And I think that's one of the good things during that period. I became a very disciplined person financially.
So you go through these 2.5 years of working, your head is down, you're living, simply. You're working, you're employed.
Yes.
Then what happened? Did you quit? Did you decide to go back?
No.
What happened?
So at some point my prayer with God was that, after 2 years of being employed, I'll go back to the business, So basically, September 2018 was when I was supposed to exit. But by then I'd gotten used to this job. And so getting this paycheck.
They say the worst addictions are heroin, carbohydrates, and a monthly salary.
Well, it becomes comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the month you get paid.
I don't know what you mean. I can't remember. I can't remember what a salary feels like, bro.
Okay, that's how it is, man.
It's been like 10 years almost. Man.
So you become comfortable. You don't. There's that element of worry goes.
Yes.
Because the money hits your account and you pay your bills. So I kept postponing this thing, and then that's another whole story. Maybe I can talk about it another time. In January 2019, basically this year. I was exited. Yeah.
You are no longer strategic. That's how I was fired once.
So I don't know whether I was not strategic or whatever, but what I had said to God at that point was, what, Lord, I'm struggling, but I don't think it's time for me to go. But if you want me to go, let them fire me. I won't go and ask to leave. So they fired me. So I don't know whether that was God or what.
Wow.
But that's what happened.
So they fire you, but you have a little stash.
Yes.
You've now learned some discipline, you've some focus.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Well, the first month or two was a little bit difficult because I was thinking like maybe I'm not ready. I need to get back to getting a job.
You get some self-doubt, eh?
Yeah.
I understand it.
Get back to a job. The environment is hard, etc. But then I said, okay, let me just get back to this business. At that point, I think I had one employee who was an intern or two. I don't remember. So that was January is when I exited this company. So there were issues. So that was on my mind during January. February, I was now trying to just get to thinking of how this business could work. But then I just said, okay, let me just give it a go. In fact, what I'd said was I'll try it till June. which was basically last month.
Last month,
yeah. I'll try till June. If it's not working, then I'll look for a job. But in the meantime, let me get all these job, etc., out of my mind and just focus on the business. Again, fortunately, my sister had some space, so she gave me some space to work from, so I didn't pay rent. So that's so between January, February, and June now, I've been on the business. Yeah.
How is it?
Well, it's not an easy process. But there's progress. There's progress. Basically, we've been trying to accumulate customers, get new customers.
Are you manufacturing now?
No, we're not. We're not manufacturing.
So you're more of a sales outfit.
Well, yeah. You see, I was dealing with all these suppliers, etc. So I already knew them, and I already knew kind of how this thing works. So yeah, we don't manufacture anything at the moment, which is in a way it's good because we can utilize other people's resources.
Yeah.
So that's where we are at the moment.
Are you looking to go back to manufacturing?
What the question I ask myself is, anything that I do now, is it going to add value? If somebody is manufacturing t-shirts, for example, and I start manufacturing, what difference is it going to make to the customer? And what I've realized is, a lot of the guys who are in this industry are just not customer focused. As a customer to them, it's frustrating. And I'm thinking this is what probably most of the other customers go through as well. So is it a viable option to start something and give people a better experience? So that's what it's on my mind at the moment. But even if I do, I've said I'll probably do it next year. Early next year, possibly. We'll see. We'll just see.
A question I asked you yesterday is how has this experience changed you as a person?
Yeah.
What kind of person are you now compared to?
So I think I think I've become a more long-term kind of thinking person now. Like I was telling you yesterday, in my mind, I look at the time that I will die. All right? And, maybe, and not only that, how much time do I have left to do what I want to do? As much as I can, So I guess one answer to that question would be, I've realized I don't have that much time. I probably have maybe 30 years or 35 years where I can, even physically do something valuable. So that's to me, it's very limited. It's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
So what that has brought to my mind is just focus. I'm focused on the things that are important, and I spend my time, resources, and energy on those things only.
Okay. So what are those things that
one
you're focused
is obviously
on?
my relationship with God.
Okay.
Which I think is more easy now. It's not so hard. The business. The vision is to have a business that like I said to you yesterday, would be so strong that it would at least survive another generation.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of business and also a good business, like I was telling you, a business that people are happy to work with, the staff are happy to work, customers are happy to work. It's got a good reputation. Like I don't know if I didn't tell you, but those early days when I got saved, God clearly told me, no bribing, no this kind of thing. You just do your business properly. So again, a business that's doing well, that's thriving without having to cut corners, etc.
Yeah.
Then again is my family, really my daughter. Make sure I spend time with her more or less every day. Well, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. My health. And then just my own growth in terms of learning. So those 4 or 5 things. If you examine my week, those are the things I do. I don't do anything else. And then I also look out for things which would steer me off, which I avoid. I make sure I stay away from those.
All the best to that, man. Staying away from things that would veer you off.
Yes. Yeah.
Sumeet, this is an incredible story. Because what I feel like it's a story of restoration. It's a story of rebuilding. It's a redemptive story.
True, it is.
I'm wondering, what is a conversation you would have with someone who's where you are when you are shutting down the business? Someone who's going through their inevitable halt. What would you tell that person?
When I was in that space, because of the pain, emotional pain, plus other external factors. So like in my case, debt, all these things. Really, you can't see a future. Your mind just cannot comprehend.
You can get past the things that are right in front of you.
Yeah, as in, okay, for me, it was virtually, people told me, oh, it'll be okay, blah, blah, whatever. In my mind, I just couldn't picture it.
Yes.
It was just impossible.
It's not there.
It's just not there.
Yeah.
In fact, But okay, for me, I think it's just my faith. That's what I would say was like just a huge factor. I don't know if God had not helped me, I don't know how I would have made it. To be honest, because I mean the mistakes were made by me. So clearly I wasn't such a smart guy.
Are you one now?
I think I've learned.
Smarter.
Probably. Hopefully I won't make those mistakes again.
You look smarter.
I hope I would make those mistakes again. But what I would say is this. I think there is hope. There is hope. There is no place that you can't get out of.
Yeah.
It's not an easy process.
Yeah.
It's a very painful, difficult process. Amani, I mean, even now, sometimes I wonder, how did this happen? How I think of those thoughts that I used to have. I mean, like, how will I ever pay this person? Who's asking me to pay them? How will I ever pay them? How will I ever? Will I be an employee for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And my dream, even when I was a kid, was I wanted to be a business person.
Yeah.
So your dream is like blown up in smoke.
Yeah.
But I think there's hope. I don't know if whoever is listening to me is a Christian, then really, what you need to do is connect with God.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And if you're not, I would suggest you try.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. The fact that I'm sitting here and saying this, I'm not trying to, I'm just telling you the reality of my life. That's how it worked out for me. But even if you choose not to, I think just take one step at a time, one day at a time, just try and get through the day.
Like choose to continue.
Yeah, exactly. Make that deliberate choice. For me, whenever I was despairing or something would happen and I was like, man, what the heck is this? I would remind myself, or maybe God reminded me, remember, your daughter is growing up and you need to be there for her. And I was like, all right, man, let's just continue.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, it's very hard to do this thing alone. It's very, very hard. So you need friends you can talk to.
Do you have those?
Yeah, I have a couple. I have a couple of friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walia, how does it feel to share this story?
When we talked about this, for me, I was like, okay, I really don't want to share this. Because it's like, it's not. What's so good about it? However, I think the fact that by God's grace I've come to where I am now through this season. I hope someone will listen to it and believe. It's not like they've watched a movie or something or read a book. There's an actual human being that's been through this and is where they are now. And I actually think, the next 20, 30 years of my life will be much, much better, of more impact, more value, and even happier, just for me as a person, than the previous. So, and to be honest, I would never have thought that, Amani. I mean, at the point where you're thinking life is not worth living, and now you're thinking, forget the past, the best years of my life are ahead of you. Is really, it's like
it's quite a switch.
It is.
And you've alluded to the question I was going to ask you, because you talk about the optimism you have now. How else would you describe the space that you're in now? Just business-wise, mentally, spiritually, just financially, just how?
Well, what I would say probably, I think I'm more confident about where I am.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable
Yes.
with who I am,
Yes.
where I am,
Yes.
and confident that what I'm doing
Yes.
is taking me and the people around me to a good place. I don't doubt. So I think I'm clearer. I'm clearer. I'm clearer. I'm more confident. I'm calmer. Yeah, those are probably the words I would say.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
All right, cheers. Yeah.
And that is the story of one Sumeet Walia. What a story, man. I don't know what you're going through. If you're having a great time, thank God for it. And if you're having a good time, I want you to be able to look and say, what are the things I'm doing now that ensure that I don't go down that path that brings my business to a grind and to a halt? And be able to just look at your processes and do the right things. But if you're going through a hard time, Sumeet said it, there is hope. The doom and the gloom that you see, that's not the end of the story. One day my brother asked me, Amani, do you know fat women? I was like, I know a few. And he says, like, do you know like a really fat woman? I'm like, I know a few. He says, do you know like a huge fat woman who can sing? I'm like, where are you going at? And he says, it's not over until the fat lady sings. Sumeet is telling you, every day above the ground is a good day. He's saying that, there is hope. And if you believe in God, then there's definitely hope there. But even if you don't, what you see is not the entire story. Rise up, try again. Rise up, try again. And as we end this podcast, I want to pay tribute to one Bob Collymore. I want to pay tribute to a man who came into this country and turned us upside down. A man who taught us how to lead from the heart. And it's amazing how right now we have so many people mourning, owning a piece of him. One man, how could just one man touch so many people's lives? And it's got me thinking about legacy. It's got me thinking about, how do I lead? What's my motivator? Is it the heart? Is it the shilling? What is it? And so, Bob, thank you for the laughter that you gave me. And thank you for the affirmation that you gave me when you did. And thank you for the bet that you lost on my parking spree. Thank you for leading from your heart. And wherever you are, I hope that you're in peace. Goodbye.